What is going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, as you can see, that I am by myself tonight. Robert had a work emergency, and so he wasn't able to make it for tonight's stream, our comeback stream, since the last week was a pre-tape. But irregardless, it's always Robert's fault. It's always Robert's fault. So there's nothing really new to report, is there? Yes, I know. I don't know if you missed us. We missed you. And funny enough, last week's pre-tape was also Robert's doing. So just again proves my point that it's always Robert's fault. Yeah, a lot. It's a little bit disappointing that we did have to do a pre-tape for last week because so much news happened last week, and I guess we could have put something out, real quick, or done it a little something or other, but. It just wouldn't have been the same. As I guess per the usual protocol, since Robert is not here tonight, we will not be doing a movie review. And seeing how it is, since it is April. And yesterday was April Fool's Day. We decided that the theme for this month would be comedies, and comedies of a wide variety. Your teen comedy, your slapstick comedy, your dark comedy, the horror comedy. Today's review would have been Fast Time at Ridgemont High, but since Robert is not here, we're going to be pushing it off to next week. So if you do want to join, get in the live chat and also discuss this Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Watch it, and when we do the show, you could jump into the live chat and tell us what you thought. Or when this video gets archived, you could just put it in the comments as well. All right. I guess for those of you who also watch the main show, the main podcast, Circle of Jerks podcast. I hope you enjoyed our little April Fool's Day special that we filmed for you guys. I hope you were fully and totally tricked by our little deception there. For those of you watching, just coming to this video. For the first time, or to us for the first time, me, Robert, and a friend of ours, Matt, got together, and we decided to film a special April Fool's Day episode talking about conspiracy theories, and it was actually a really fun episode, I must say. Sitting, just a bunch of friends sitting around talking about these kind of wild ideas. Matt talked about UFOs. Robert talked about the possibility of Hitler, not committing suicide in 1945 and actually making an escape to South America, and I talked about the moon landing. Uh, but if you want to check out what specific issue or specific ideas or issues that we're talking about, you can check out the video. It's on the Circle of Jerks podcast channel page under full episodes. Just look for the thumbnail, the most recent one, and the thumbnail saying that we're talking about beauty secrets or our beauty secrets. Okay, so I guess nothing really to report this past weekend. Gosh, it goes by so quickly that yeah, it just all runs so quickly. I was actually, finishing up the episode. Not so much of a not so much of a sad story, but one of the young men at my church, decided that he would be better served, or he'd be better serving the Lord at a different church, and it was a little sad. I'll admit that, especially for me, since I've known this young man for a very long time. I knew him since he was a very young kid, junior high at the youngest, and he was actually one of my former Bible study students back in the day when I used to teach, and he was a young man. I don't want to give up too much of his details, just because I don't want to put him out like that, especially but he grew up with some challenges, and it kind of embittered him to receiving the message of the gospel. But one day he kind of got into an accident, and it kind of opened his eyes, and he he accepted the Lord into his heart. And I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I'm taking full credit, because there are there are a bunch of other people involved in his life that also helped him on his journey, and even recently, he had a few struggles, and he was able to overcome, and he just felt that he'd be better served, or there are more opportunities to serve at this new church. And so this past Sunday, me and a few of the other brothers at my church that knew him well took him out to dinner, and kind of to give him to give him kind of a send off, as he starts this new journey, serving the Lord. And I hope, and I really hope him, I really wish him well, and I hope to hear good reports from him, because it's not like he's leaving town or the state. He's just going to a different church in a different part of the city. So yeah, I mean, we'll probably still see each other, and still hang out, but just not being able to worship and fellowship with him on a regular basis it makes me a little sad. Um, um, and so that was my weekend. Um, yeah, I was just I was just kind of buried with podcast work, and yeah, so it was a mainly quieter weekend. All right. Well, with all that, with all the little catch up, uh, catching up out of the way, let's get into some the news stories from this past week and this week. I guess the first little bit of news item that I want to talk about is the it happened today actually, uh, but President Trump has threatened, or I don't know if it was a declaration, but you know, he's he made an announcement saying that he was going to shut down the border between the United States and Mexico, and it put everyone like in a tizzy. We got a bunch of Chicken Littles out there screaming, "Oh, the end is nigh, the sky is falling," and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I still understand. I understand like the economic side of this. Like the worry about this because there's a lot of things are exported from Mexico into the United States and vice versa. But just from what I've been reading, and if from various uh, publications, um, you know. Uh, I think is it Mexico that exports more, or does the U.S. export more? Oh well, okay, yeah. I mean, it hurts Mexico in that being next door neighbors and all. The U.S. imports more than it imports more from Mexico than Mexico. Um, I'm sorry. Yeah, I actually have some notes today. So, of course, this wasn't exactly the plan because I was expecting to have a co-host that I could occasionally throw to. But I'm sorry. A quick second. Okay. Yeah. Well, America imports more things from Mexico than it does sending products to Mexico. And so, I think, because I think the news dropped late last night, and I guess I just wasn't paying attention because I was, pretty tired. And I think one of was mocking the fact that hipsters wouldn't have would be running out would be the price of avocado toast would be skyrocketing because one of the biggest one of the biggest foodstuffs that's exported from Mexico is avocados, and so the price of avocados would go up, and hipsters would be feeling the pinch. Um, and my position on this is it's fairly simple. We need comprehensive immigration immigration reform, but also we need to have a border. We need to have, and the status quo as it were. The status quo, right, is will not suffice. Uh, you know, every day, we have people coming in illegally, and like, every, it seems like every 3 months there's always this, caravan of people coming, making their way to the border. And the president said that he's doing this so to put pressure on Mexico to help with to help curb these caravans, and also uh, to curb these caravans, and to kind of make them make Mexico enforce their own borders on their southern border, because a lot of these caravans are coming from South American countries, El Salvador, Honduras, what have you. And so I think I it's I think it's time that the Democrats and the Republicans, they work out some sort of deal, because I think this idea of open borders is ridiculous, and I think blanket amnesty for the people that enter our country illegally is just not the way to go, in my opinion. Um, I mean, just as if someone broke into your house and started living in your house, sleeping in your bed, eating your food, wearing your clothes, you wouldn't abide it. You wouldn't abide it. So why are you allowing people to transgress our border and enter our country illegally? Not declaring themselves, not having a way of keeping an eye on them. Uh, so the idea that these people, there's like the idea that no person is illegal, or these are people, these are human beings that deserve dignity and all that stuff. I'm fully bought into that. These are human beings. They want a better life, but it is our country, and I think we do have a right. I think we do have a right to say who we allow into our country. Just as on a micro level, we have the right to invite, or disinvite, or straight out bar people from entering our homes. Um, on the macro level, we should have that kind of control of who enters into our country. Simple as that. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna make too much stink over it, because I think it's a rather simple idea to grasp. It's not too complicated. I already used the house one, but it's like having sex with a woman. A woman doesn't just allow any man to no have sex with her. She would assumably vet the man, make sure he was a good and decent person. Um, maybe not make sure he's not like the love him and leave him type. Making sure that there's like some sort of chemistry, and they have like a good vibe. Because otherwise, I'm pretty sure that a woman that has unconsensual sex would call it rape. And I'm not going as far as saying that people who transgress our border and blatantly break our laws as rapists. But I would dare say that it is criminal. Because in the same breath, you can't say, oh, these are good people, but they broke the law. It's like I guess they can be good people, but they still broke the law. And they have you know the, it just and these people, they just gum up the works for the people that try to come here legally, that go and that go and fill out the forms, turn in the forms, you know uh, pay the fees, wait in line. It just pushes back their opportunities to enter into the country, doing it the right way. And I mean, again, these people, the people are saying that these are these people that coming, you know, in are, refugees. It's like, well, that's not accurate either, because, again, there are legal definitions to these words that are using, particularly refugee. And again, I'd be hard pressed to call these people refugees. These are economic migrants looking for opportunities, and I don't begrudge them at all. I don't begrudge them at all for that, you know. But their lives aren't really in that much danger, except for when you do decide to make this trek up from Honduras, up from El Salvador, and you run the risk of actually being in danger from these some by predators, by these coyotes that do rape women, and and do steal children from villages on the way to use as shields to get into the country, to get into the United States, and just at in the in human trafficking. So if we disincentivize people coming here, then we can save we can keep thousands of women from being raped or murdered, and tens of thousands of children from being abducted and being sold into slavery. And I don't know about you, but I think that's a good thing. I'm reminded of the State of the Union, and when the president said, like, oh, we are, what is it? Okay. We're like, we're reducing the number of people who might be, become trafficked or sexually assaulted and stuff. And the entire Democratic Party sat on their hands for that. Who would not applaud, these, especially the women, the ones wearing white, the ones supposedly, wearing white to celebrate, women's suffrage, the right to vote and all that. And it's like, and they sat on their hands when they said, oh, we've reduced, sexual assaults and human trafficking, and it's just like, it's like, are you kidding? You're not gonna applaud for that? So I kind of went off, on a tangent a little bit, but it looks like for the time being, your avocado toast might be a wee bit on the expensive side, and I for one, if it stops people from getting raped or being sold into slavery or potentially murdered because they're coming in illegally and inhabiting a space that they shouldn't be, a la Molly Tibbetts, or oh god, who's that? Oh man, who's that girl that got shot in San Francisco? Kate Steinle. Kate Steinle. That's right. Kate Steinle. You have Molly Tibbetts. You have Kate Steinle. You have all these people. There are a bunch of people who were killed by illegal aliens who should not have been there, and they would otherwise be alive if these people were apprehended and deported, or sent to prison. But now there's now there's these stupid sanctuary laws. That California being a sanctuary state, that is absurd to me. Because if a serial killer got on the loose, we wouldn't say like, oh, he's a human being. No human being is illegal, and shelter this serial killer. Because oh yeah, and like Ron Singh, I believe, the deputy from like Central or Northern California, he again killed by an illegal immigrant that was here, that shouldn't have been here, who had multiple charges, for violence and I think in the case of Ronald Singh, gang activity, and yet ICE can't do their job because California is a sanctuary state. So they the police or sheriffs or any law enforcement within California is not supposed, or is not encouraged, or they don't have to let ICE know that that they have detained illegal alien. So hate me if you want, but shutting down the border for a little bit and the cost of some produce going up is the price of maybe preventing Kate Steinle or Ronald Singh or Molly Tibbetts. Yeah, I'm for it. I'm for it. You can call me a monster or or hateful or whatever. I don't care. If it saves lives, even for a moment, I'm for it. All right. Let's move on to the next item on the list, and that would be I'm sorry, in respect to Chris Rock, Jesse Smollett, because he no longer, he doesn't get the U anymore. No more respect for Jesse. Yeah, as you know, last week, all charges, all 16 counts, felony counts, were dropped from Jesse Smollett, and he was released. He was released from prison, and he forfeited his $10,000 bond. And I gotta say, this was very surprising to me. Very, very surprising. And I think the reaction from everyone, people were surprised, because it wasn't as though he pleaded down, right? Because I think some of like the excuse, the rationale behind letting Jesse go was, he had done community service, and this was like his first time. This is his first offense, and so I think people would have understood or been able to accept, if he pleaded down to a misdemeanor, and and he did get the slap on the wrist, but that's not what happened. He got everything dropped. No prosecution. It didn't go to trial. He wasn't found guilty, or not guilty by a jury of his peers. It's just they and it wasn't because the evidence was no good, or it was tainted, or the prosecution thought that they didn't have strong enough case against them. I think one of the district attorneys came out and said, like, no, this like there's a really strong case against Jesse Smollett, and they thought that they had a very strong feeling that they could get a conviction. And so when it came out that all charges were dropped, and that his case was sealed, like no one could see the details of what went down. People on the left and the right were just flabbergasted, utterly and totally flabbergasted by what had happened, and rightfully so. I think when you had like so much evidence, you had like the video of the brothers, buying the paraphernalia, or as it were, the rope, the rope for the noose, the red hats. Um, uh, it was just it's absolutely astonishing. And then of course, what is it? And then of course you have it come to light that I think the prosecuting attorney, she recused herself, but then she didn't recuse the entire office. Right? And then the way I heard it explained was, it's not enough that she, Kim Fox, that's the prosecutor. It wasn't enough. I think she's the DA or ADA, or she's the, was she the federal prosecutor? God, I'm sorry, guys. Oh, okay. So she's a state attorney for Cook County, in Illinois. So yeah, she's a federal employee. Or at least not federal, state. Sorry, state. So she's a state attorney for Cook County, and she initially recused herself because she was kind of close to, or she had some sort of association with Jesse. But I heard that it wasn't like just recusing herself wasn't enough, because she had to, it was like the entire case should have been sent off to another county, or some other authority within the state, because her office was still handling it, and even though she may not have handled all or she may not have been the one, the tip of the spear, but she could have still had some influence on her subordinates. And then it came out that a former Michelle Obama staffer might have applied some influence on the situation. That's not great. Just being real, that's not great. And I mean, it's bad when the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, a Democrat, I think he's somewhat tied to the Obamas. I can't remember exactly, But he even came out and was like, "This is a miscarriage of or this is a whitewashing of justice." And he was angry. Along with the police inspector. He was pissed off at Jesse from day one. And I'm no fan of Rahm Emanuel. Just putting it out there, but in this case, I must agree with him. In this one instance, I must stand behind Rahm Emanuel and say, yes, I'm with this guy fully, because at least on this case, he is speaking out against justice. He is speaking, for because I think everyone and the mother thought that he was just gonna throw his Hollywood money around, and his status as an actor, or or a black man, or a gay man, or a gay black man, or whatever configuration thereof, and get a reduced charge at the very least, and get like a fine, a slap on the wrist, and community service. We were all expecting that. We were maybe as cynical as that sounds, I think that's what we were all thinking that he was going to get. But no, not even he completely skated. All 16 charges. It wasn't as though it was like 3 charges. It was 16 charges. And he and he just came out and was like, oh, you know what? I want to, I just want to get this behind me. I just want to get back to work. Ooh, excuse me. But if he was a truly innocent man, if he really didn't do this to himself, he would be very upset. I would imagine being very upset. Being accused of something that I didn't do, and then on top of that, having me forfeit my $10,000 bond. Because that's then kind of an admission of guilt. Or some sort of culpability. And if I was like, if I was truly the victim, if I was truly wrong and there was an injustice done to me, I would not just want to sweep this under the rug and go about my business. I would want to seek justice. But that's not what Jesse Smollett is doing. He's trying to get beyond this. He just wants to get his life back, but he's not going to get his life back. Per Chris Rock and the roast job that the well-deserved roast job he did at the NAACP Image Awards of Jesse Smollett. It's like your career is done. You had it all. You had the light skin. You had the victim. You had the victimhood card. And Chris Rock was saying like, man, if I had all those things, I could have done. What my career would have been if I had all of the things that you had. And and it was really funny, and super on point. So, but I guess I think because all of this kind of shady stuff that's happened, it kind of raised the eyebrows of the FBI, and I think even Trump said that he is going to begin an investigation to the FBI on this matter, and also I think if anything the small light of hope is the federal charges, because he's still being investigated for mail fraud, possibly for allegedly sending that hate mail to himself. So there might be some hope yet. and also, federal charges come with, are you don't mess around. You don't want federal charges ever to come down on you. State charges or whatever. Yes, they're severe, but federal charges. If you're convicted, he could lose he could lose the right to vote. He could lose the right to he could lose his right to bear arms or even travel. So should have made a deal, dude. Should have made a deal. There's one more thing. Oh, yes. Rahm Emanuel, or was it the police chief? Either way, I think they did present him with a bill of $130,000 for the overtime, and I think the resources that were expended, on this investigation. I think this is kind of a. I think this might be a test, because if he pays this bill from the city, then it might make him look more guilty, regardless of his guilt or innocence. Because if he pays this bill, it's kind of like he's accepting that he did those things. He did those things to make the police waste their time and resources and all that stuff. And so, it might. So if he pays the $130,000, then I think that might be a bad move for him going forward. I know today that there were protests out front of the Fraternal Order of Policemen in Chicago. Protesting against all of this, Jesse Smollett nuttiness. And I think, some of the protest signs were hilarious. A friend of mine sent me some stuff. Let me see. They're protesting outside of the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police. There are signs that said get the Fox out of here. Referencing Kim Fox, the state attorney, and then we'll get another one like Kim Fox listens to Nickelback. I don't know why, but I find that one particularly hilarious. Here's one that actually referenced Jesse Smollett, and it's corruption so bad you could smell it. And that one was pretty clever also. He should have taken a plea deal. He done goofed. I mean, because just as recently as this past weekend, SNL even roasted him with. They did a skit about him, and he was late. It's like, oh yeah, but you never believe it. Yeah, I was attacked by a Nazi octopus, and all these ludicrous excuses. But just another angle on this whole thing is the show Empire, and I heard the ratings for it took a really big hit. After the news, of all the charges being dropped from Jesse, and it's kind of sad because, I've never watched Empire. Just full disclosure. I just didn't think it was gonna be a show for me. Or at the time I was watching, I don't know when the yeah, I think I was watching, I was watching too many shows already, and so regardless, it's kind of sad because this show, because of this controversy, might get canceled, and it might be putting a whole mess of people out of work, and I'm not just talking about the actors. I'm talking about everyone associated with this show, like from the sound guy to the camera people to the gappers to the craft foods, to the drivers, to wardrobe, to hair and makeup, editing, um, also all sorts of people. If this show gets canceled, they're gonna get hit. And it kind of sucks because these people who just wanted to make a good show, are gonna be on the hook with Jesse, because for what, he wanted to up his profile. He wanted to get more money. Um, he wanted to increase the sale of his album that was coming out. It was just selfish. It was just selfish, and I don't think the people that work on Empire deserved it. All right. Okay, let's get to the last bit of news. If you hadn't heard, if you hadn't heard, uh, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, her Green New Deal, was put forth in Congress or the Senate, and they voted on it. And interestingly enough, it did not get one vote in favor. Yeah, and I'm particularly surprised, because like there were a lot of people who like voted like present, but they didn't vote on the the actual bill. I mean, I think there was like I think there are a bunch of abstentions as well, but I don't think it got one vote in favor of. Right, yeah. And I mean, not a single vote. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Zero, yeah, zero votes, and it was hilarious, because Ocasio Cortez, came out and she did that rant about how this is for our lives and people are dying, and climate change is real, and as I was watching it, I couldn't help but be reminded of that South Park episode with Al Gore talking about Man Bear Pig. He's like, I'm cereal, guys, I'm cereal. That's all I heard. That's all I heard from her when she was, going on that rant, talking about, people are dying. Um, but the logical question to that is, who's dying? Like who in your district, who in the Bronx has died as a result of climate change. I mean, just point, point to me a story of someone dying because of climate change. Just like there has to be at least one story about someone dying from climate change. I just need to point out one story, just one story. But of course, there isn't. There isn't a story about a person dying of climate change. She references all these like weird weather patterns and things like that. It's like, well, yeah, because that's weather. It's not climate. Climate changes. Climate changes every single day. The exact conditions from one day to the next vary by various degrees. So when people say climate change, it's like, yes, it changes every day. Oh, will I YouTube? Will I be, not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming? As such, viewers will experience buffering. I wonder why. But anyways, yeah, it's like, so there's, I mean, and in response, I've never heard of this guy before, but after what he did on the floor of the Senate, he's my new hero. He is my new hero, Senator Mike Lee from Utah. He does this presentation about he does this trolling presentation, kind of making fun of the Green New Deal. And he starts off with that meme picture of Ronald Reagan, with riding a raptor, shooting an Uzi with an RPG strapped to his back, and the Velociraptor has like a tattered American flag, and he's talking about like, yeah, see this picture has even though we were in a Cold War with Russia, this picture has nothing to do with that, much like the Green New Deal having anything to do about climate change or stabilizing the climate or what have you. And then he just goes on, to just troll or occasional Cortex, with talking about like, oh, in the Green New Deal, I talk about getting rid of air travel, but how are people in, say, Alaska gonna get around? And then he puts up this giant picture of Luke riding a tauntaun from Empire Strikes Back. And then he's like, I'm sorry. It's just, I was just picturing it in my brain, and it was too good. But he was talking about like, oh, if we can't fly around on planes, then we'll just use these tauntauns. These lovable, reptoman mammals from the ice planet of Hoth. It's like, and they're not just good for riding. They they can be used for warmth as well. And so, oh man, oh jeez. Man, legendary troll. Man, Mike Lee is my hero now. And then goes on to talk about Hawaii. It's like, oh well, how are people from Hawaii or other islands gonna get around? And then he pulls up a picture of Aquaman, and like old school Aquaman from like the 70s from like Super Friends. And it's like, we'll just have to get a herd of these giant 60-foot these like 40-foot seahorses, and we'll just ride those around. And so it was like the most epic trolling of all time, and it was and rightfully so. I have to say, it was rightfully. She was being trolled rightfully so, because I think just the week before or a few days prior, Steven Crowder reads the entirety of the Green New Deal, like from first page to last page. He just reads it, and I listened to it, and there was absolutely nothing. There were zero solutions to the supposed climate crisis. All it, the entire document, which is only 5 pages long. If I can find it, I'm gonna link it down in the description, and you guys can read it yourself. But if you read it, it has nothing to do with practical solutions to combating supposed or alleged climate change. It's just all about. It was just all intersectional, like identitarian victimhood status. Like, oh, we got, we have, and there's like they're talking about reparations and securing a wage for people like unwilling to work. And all the supposed proposals, to combat climate change, would cost more money and and utilize technologies that don't even exist yet. Because and let's say that this was somehow passed, and we had to do this. The R&D, the development of the technologies would cost trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars, folks. Trillions and trillions of dollars. And this arbitrary number, of 12 years. Like, where did that come from? It didn't explain how they came to that number of 12 years and the world is going to end. It was all about victimhood and identity. That's all that document had in it. It didn't offer one solution. It didn't offer a solution, didn't propose a solution, didn't even put up a semblance of a solution. Just talked about like, oh, we gotta give reparations to black people. We gotta acknowledge that this land is stolen and give some of this back to the Indians, and and just it was all a bunch of nonsense. Complete and utter nonsense. And I'm super glad Senator Mike Lee mocked the hell out of it. I am super glad. I am beyond myself with giddiness that Mike Lee took. I'm gonna link that video in the description because it's so epic. Because he just calls her out on the bullshit, just completely and utterly calls her out on the bullshit. Trump said that they'd be winning so much that you get sick of winning, and I'm not saying that I'm sick of winning, but it's kind of getting to that point where it's not fun for me anymore. It's like being in a fight with your little brother, and you could just hold your brother back, keep him at arm's length, and he's just kind of like swinging at you. It kind of feels like that. As odd as an analogy as that might be, but that's how I'm kind of feeling right now. And I think I think we're at a really interesting time where I think we're for most people the mask has already slipped off, and we are now seeing the face of the new Democratic Party, the new more leftist party. And I think more and more people are beginning to have their eyes open. I'm not saying that they'll instantly become conservatives or Republicans or Trump supporters or what have you, but they'll definitely start moving closer to that to the center, and I think that's great. I don't think you should be too far on the you shouldn't be way over on the left, and you shouldn't be way over on the right. I don't care that you have a side. I don't care what your side is, as long as it's there's nuance, there's room for nuance, and there's room for nuance, and open for different opinions, and maybe even persuasion. Because too far, as people moving, finding moving to the center ground. I think ultimately I think that's the way to go. Because so many times people have referenced that that they've had debates with people who are sometimes diametrically opposed, but at the end they were still able to be friendly, and they were able to go out and have a drink together. And I think that's what we need. We just need to get back to that center ground. Not saying that they have to either side has to come move step over the line either way, but just getting closer to that. Just getting closer to that that middle ground. And I think moves like Jesse Smollett throwing his influence around, and getting the charges dropped. The Democrats not even cracking a smile about the reduction of sexual assaults or human trafficking at the border. And most importantly, seeing the Democrats as for the hypocrites that they are. Because the Democratic front runners, like your Harrises, your Bookers, your Warrens, they voted on they supposedly supported this Green New Deal, and yet when it came time to vote for it, they didn't. And I don't know if that's something that has something to do with them being running for president, so they can't really vote, or whether they just again they just voted president, but they didn't vote on they abstained, or they just didn't vote. But it's these things that I think is these things that are opening people's eyes and having them walk towards that center. And I think that's a better place to have an argument or a debate than rather than being really far on either side and just having a shouting match. All right, I guess that will do it for us tonight. I hope you were entertained. I hope some new ideas came to you, and maybe you've heard this thing, or maybe you heard the things I've said. Maybe you heard them 1,000 times. Maybe you agree with them. Maybe you don't agree with them. Maybe you slightly agree with me, but not completely. That's completely all right. My beliefs don't require that you believe everything I say. Just for I only require that you listen, consider, and consider. And whether you change your mind, that's on you. Well, that will do it for us tonight. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you were entertained, even though it was just by myself. Don't forget to check out the library of other shows that we have. Circular Jerks Podcast, this show, Nocturnal Transmissions, and Up by Up Down. Excuse me. I'm just not... my voice isn't used to talking this much. Oh. Sorry about that. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter @PodcastCOJ and Instagram @CircleOfJerksPodcast. Thank you for joining me tonight. Don't forget, next week we'll be doing 2 reviews. I'm sorry, I can't remember the movie that we were going to do this coming week, but we will be doing a makeup review for the movie that we watched this week, which was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And so, if you would like to join us in the review and get into the live chat, please watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High and then join us next Tuesday. All right, for myself, I'll say goodnight and see you next time.